Hello, welcome. Today we're going to try and sort out some problems. We're going to try and keep it simple and not do the mistakes that a lot of other people make. You can see on screen now two chairs. They're both very similar, but they're both different. And the problem is that they both drop. And this is what they look like underneath. And you can see they're probably very similar to a chair you've got, and you've got the same problem that after a while they just go down. Just like that. Without any warning, you go psh, and there you go. You may not realise that underneath there's a gas strut, but this bit is only for show. We'll have a look at what's underneath it now. So in this video I'm going to show you what's involved in replacing this bit. This is the strut, and how to do it safely without damaging you or anything else. And I want to point out that these things are held in purely with friction. There is no screws or fixings, it's purely friction, and we can get rid of that with a bit of WD-40 and a hammer. You're also going to need one of these, which is called a mole grip, or one of these which is called a Stilson, or a pipe wrench, depends what part of the world you come from. Even if you've got to buy these tools to do the job, it's not going to cost you an absolute fortune. We'll do the maths a little bit later. And everything I mentioned today is available from Amazon. You'll find links in the description. I went on to Amazon and I found this gas strut, and you can see it's only $11.55, and it says you've got to measure it. So I had a look at the chair, and it's basically, if you pull out the plastic bits that are there, you then find that that's where the strut finishes. Having pulled up the cups and measured it, my V equaled 200 millimetres. Whilst you're ordering the strut, it might be a good idea to order the wrench if you haven't got one, and possibly a can of WD-40, and if you haven't got one, a hammer. But if you've got all those bits, then you're well away. Before doing the job, I did what I normally do and went and had a look on YouTube to see if there was any videos about it, and I found these, but they weren't particularly useful, because I encountered a problem that I've had before, which is I couldn't get the strut out of the actual seat bit. And if you watch these videos, you'll find that most of them involve hitting things and bouncing things off the floor and making dents and trying to avoid hurting yourself, which also isn't such a good idea. So now I'm going to show you what I actually did. And this is real. And if you do what I did, hopefully you won't hurt yourself or the equipment or anything else, and no dents in the floor. So let's see if we can get stuck in. So let me set the scene for you. I've had the chairs apart and I can't get the bottom bit and the top bit to separate because there's a strut, and so I've taken the actual chair off, and this is where we now start. Now on this chair you can see there is a hole, and underneath there is the end of the gas strut, which is the button that goes up and down when you raise and lower the seat. Well, on the previous one that hole didn't exist. All the mechanism was in there, but there was no hole, so that was a bit different. On this one it's like this. And that's what the strut looks like when you pull it out of chair. See, it's got all the bruising on it. It's worth noting that once you've got them out, they're not really reusable because you've damaged them if you've used the wrench to get them out. I've unscrewed the seat from this thing because when you've got the seat on it, it's very large trying to manoeuvre it around. And like this, it's much more manageable. People will say you've got to hit this and use bits of wooden mallets and things. No, use a hammer, because if you use a hammer, you're going to hit a bit of metal which you don't want. With a hammer, it's going to fly much easier than if you're hitting it with something soft, which tends to absorb the shock, which is not what you want. You want to actually bang it out. Pure physics. It's like kinetic balls. This is what I mean, a nice hard shock on one end and the ball flies off the other. So that's what we're trying to do. Hitting the gas strut isn't a problem because it's broken. That's what we're taking it out for. This bit's important. When you hit it, make sure you've lifted it up about 2 inches off whatever you're resting it on, so that when you bash it, it's got somewhere to go. But it's not going to fall over the floor and not going to hit you. So just banged it, and as you can see, this now comes off. Having got that clear, now all we've got to do is to try and get the other end of this thing out of the bracket that's what screws to the actual chair, which is easy enough if we apply a little bit of science. Now, I don't know what you call these where you come from, but in England in the 70s and 80s they used to be called mole grips, even though these are made by Draper. Anyway, they're a variable type clip thing. At this point, I've already tried doing it once. You can see there's things, but what I'm going to do, just try once more. I'm going to actually grab the shaft of the gas strut. There, you can see where the marks are already. And I'm going to grab as tight as I can with the mole grips and rotate them. Rotate the shaft, see if it'll actually come out of the house in there. And I say, I've tried it before, it didn't work. So it's worth another try before we give up on that and try another way. Anyway, much to my surprise, as you can see, it did just pull off. So if it's only a push fit into there, it did just with a bit of a wiggle come off. But what I did on the other one, this one, because I tried all that, and I don't know if you noticed, there's a few more gouge marks in it. On this one, it wasn't having any of it. It was no way they was going to come out with gripping it, and it's just mangled it up. So what I had to do is I had to get the grip, and I put it on basically the bottom of the shaft, where the top of the black bit is there, just like it's shown there, and I clamped it on there, and that's where it all got rather interesting. What I had to do was put the black bit from the chair over this edge of this chest, and with the mould gripping onto there, and I then hit it with a hammer. Let me show you where my thumb's going. That's where I actually hit it, on that part of the jaw. I use this bench, but you could use a piece of wood and prop it against that or something. Just something that will stop the black bracket from moving and allow you to smack the hammer onto the jaws of the mould grip or the Stilson if you use a Stilson, and that will then pull it straight out of the taper. I've seen on some of these YouTube videos people are actually hitting the black bracket with chisels and hammers and things, trying to get the thing to move. Well, if you're going to distort it to get it to come out, you're going to break it, so it's not a good idea. And now comes the easy part, putting it all back together again. And putting it back together again couldn't be easier, really. There's the spider, which is the correct way up. There's the black bracket, there's the old strut, and there's the bottom of the seat. So all we've got to do is put all of them together. That's a cushion you can see on the floor there from it. And so what we've got to do, there's the new strut. Just got to make sure you take the blue plastic cap off, because otherwise it's not going to work. And there's the end without the cap, that's what you're looking for. And as you can see, it's all nicely compressed, and the instructions just said take it off. So there's the old safety decorative bit. So we just slide that off the old strut, nice and simple. And having done that, we then put those cups, because that's all they are, plastic cups, just slide them onto the new strut. Voila. A lot easier when you're not doing it with one hand. And there you are, see, brought the second hand in to do it. Second 10 rows, they call me. Anyway, no, sorry. Right, it's just a tune that we've been learning at a song group I go to. So we've just got to put it all together now. So all we've got to do here is get that bit on there and slide that in there. This looks a lot more complicated and difficult than it really is. You've got to put the chair onto the bracket with the screws, because that's easy. That's nice and simple. And then you just got to get this into here, and that's it. So strut into bracket, bracket onto bottom of chair, strut into spidery bit, and then pick it up and turn it over, and just like that. Ba-da-bum. Oh look, reminds me of a cassette channel. Never mind. Okay, right. So that's it. There we go. There is, nice and simply, there it is. That's one chair done, and that's the other chair done. If you got something out of this video, then please like, subscribe, share it about, get your friends to share it about. Just put it around, and I'll catch you another time. A couple of interesting videos coming up here. This one you'll find particularly good. The wrench and the strut cost less than $20, and the hammer costs about £8, which is about $10. So not a lot of money.